Law, section 2931 and section 2932 require the board of directors to approve a system of internal control program review, and also evaluate the need for internal audit from time to time. So what we did back in 2018 was we kind of built on the annual review process that was being done at the time, made it a little more robust, added some more kind of marrying the two, some internal audit techniques with what was being done. We've continued to build on that for the past couple of years. Back in 2018, I first came to the board with a breakdown of the different things that were going to be done within the program, but we did not approve anything at that time. What we've done now is we've kind of completed the process of compiling the program and putting the different activities that need to be done within the system of internal control bubble within that program. So that covers a lot of different things, from document control to strategic planning to the internal control program, risk assessment and review process, continuing education, and other special projects as necessary. So it's kind of a wide-ranging program manual. I'm not going to go through each and every section of that manual. It's a 22-page.
Oh, really?
Fun document. I mean, I could if you guys want me to go through it all.
I wanted to take that for the weekend read.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting reading, for sure. No, what's my word? Fun. It's fun reading. There we go.
Here for insomnia.
Well, yeah. So that's what we're kind of, that's what we've come up with through the process of the last couple of years, kind of continuing to build the program, getting it in line with the updated standards that were updated. COSO, which is the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations of the Treadway Commission. You'll never need to know that. Maybe you're on Jeopardy one day, I don't know.
There'll be a test later.
They are the organization that created the COSO framework, which is the framework that is used to build the standards that New York State developed, same standards that are used across multiple organizations, public, private, whatever you want to call it. It's a pretty standard framework that we use for internal control. They were updated in 2013 from their 1992 version. New York State updated theirs in 2016, which kind of kicked off this whole process of revamping and improving our internal control program. And then again, what we did was we looked at section 2931 and section 2932. We are public authority. We're not required by the authority's budget office to have internal audit specifically, nor do we necessarily need it due to the size of our organization, but we do kind of speak to it in the internal control manual and kind of pull the best of both worlds. So the internal control program was built with internal audit functions in mind, but it's not specifically internal audit. Kind of gets the best of both worlds.
Yeah, we try to avoid that terminology.
Yes.
To use the word audit versus a review, because it could, you start crossing into the audit world, it requires a whole separate.
Right, there's the International Institute of Auditors standards, IA standards that would then apply, which would be a whole nother set. You'd need a charter, you'd need an audit officer, you would need a lot of
staff.
Yes, you would need a lot more. So we kind of take principles from internal audit, using a risk-based scenario review to kind of do our review processes, following a similar format as we would do an internal audit, but we are not specifically internal audit. One of the things that has really helped facilitate this change over the past couple of years was, we had an annual review process that was in place. In 2017, I came on board and kind of took that process and tried to start expanding it to be in line with the new standards. What we did for each year was the same annual review process over all of our assessable units, which is one of the, I'm getting into a lesson here. One of the levels of this cube that we can look at. You can look at an entity as a whole, a division, an accessible unit, or a specific process. So what we were doing was looking at units as a whole. And we were looking at every unit every year as much as we could for internal control review purposes, and then we would report on findings that way. While this is definitely great, there are some areas that don't necessarily need the same level of review every single year. Obviously, with any business, there's processes that are more risky and processes that are less risky. So what we've done over the past year specifically was put some things in place to allow us to move towards a more risk-based review program, which is more in line with your internal audit kind of departments. we purchased a software called Auto Audit. I'm gonna start calling it Auto Review, I guess. We can't get away from that term. But this software will help facilitate a lot of the administrative processes that go into a more risk-based review. It will facilitate all of our risk assessments that we're going to have management start doing, in addition to the review processes that we do. So we got that in May of 2021, and we are starting to implement the changes this year. So this year's review process will be transitioning everyone from the old review process to this new schedule of review. Every year in August, we'll have a review plan that will cover all of the different things that we're going to do for the year, and that will support the annual report we have to send to New York State over our internal control.
So is everyone gonna go through the process at the same time, or do you, this group, the first few months of the year, this group the second few months?
So that's a good question. So normally what we would do is we would kick off our review in November, and then I would have every unit go through the documentation review portion, and then every unit go through the control testing portion at similar times. So documentation review would run from January to March, control testing runs from April to June, and then the report would be issued in June. For this year, what we're doing is getting everybody caught up onto the new process between now and June when we issue the annual report. Then starting in August, we'll have everybody will be staggered. So it'll be, everybody will have a set number of review assessments they have to do, different risk assessments, reviewing their processes. And those will be set on the schedule. So everyone might get one in August, you might get one in September. And that's the other good thing about doing it this way is that this way it's more staggered and more frequent. So it's not once a year, everyone's like, oh, I gotta get all this stuff done. It's, every now and then it's, a few minutes here and there, and it kind of keeps it fresh. In addition to our auto audit software, we actually also have a new internal control analyst. So Jared, he's over here. He is joining the department. He's going to be helping with a lot of the risk analysis and control testing that we're going to do starting in August. So that's kind of a quick breakdown of the internal control program, internal control review process activities. The other activities that go within the internal control program, again, are the strategic plan. They're kind of they work together. The internal control structure kind of supports the strategic plan. Document control, this is also another thing that we've been working towards improving over the past couple of years. And then special projects, anything else that comes up, it's all kind of wrapped up into this program manual.
Much like you guys have talked about terminology, like using review versus audit, you might want to consider the same thing with strategic plan. Because a lot of educational systems are getting away from strategic plans because it's a static document versus a working, living document. So it's just terminology that you might want to consider when
What are they moving to?
different people are calling it different things, but most of them really are going towards goals and things. Belief systems, that kind of thing, because they want it to live every day versus somebody putting a plan in place for 5 years, revisiting it in 5 years.
Well,
Yeah, we revisit ours quite often.
That's a good point. We actually do. So in the strategic plan that we kind of created and revamped last year, we meet quarterly on strategic plan goals and we update it every single year. So right now we're in the process of updating it, and we actually call it strategic planning for internal purposes, but the plan document itself is actually strategic plan and operational initiatives. So we put that forward every year, and it updates and changes every year. When you guys get that in April, you'll get a copy of that in April with the comprehensive annual report. It'll have the updates for this year, things we might have added, things we might have adjusted, progress we've made on goals through the year. So it's more of a narrative living document, yeah. Because you're right, I mean, static document that you kind of create and just let it sit there, it doesn't really help anyone that much.
Yeah, we do pretty regular review of that and updating the goals and measures. I just want to take a second to give Susanna and Jared too some kudos. I mean, this is it's a thankless task, but it's monumental. I mean, just huge, the amount of work that goes into this, the amount of different policies and procedures that have to be identified, adopted, created, evaluated. It really is. I mean, and they do a fantastic job, very detail oriented. And quite honestly, I mean, if you look back of checked the box before Susanna came on. So she's really pulled this program together and it's really helped, you know, I mean, it helps us catch the mistakes that we've made and rectify them before an auditor catches them.
Yeah, this is a very good document, I'm very impressed, and, you know, in the world of finances, practices, procedures, does it rise to a policy? So it's, this is good stuff, and, I tell you, it's a nice, catch, like you just said, on any, issues we might have, where we can catch ourselves before somebody else does.
Always better for us to catch it first.
Yeah, and then, you know, and it has, you know, we've caught some mistakes, we fixed the problem, and then, you know, we move on. Go find other mistakes.
Right.
Better for you to explain it.
Good. Now, do we adopt an internal control program manual every year or every so many years or what?
No, so the public authorities law section is non-specific on that. It simply states that actually I have it exactly right here. So the board needs to establish and maintain the authority guidelines for a system of internal control and maintain for the authority a system of internal control and a program of internal control review, which I believe by adopting this, as long as there are no significant changes to the program, I don't believe it would need to be brought forward again.
When was the last time? Was it a couple years ago or when we did?
I don't believe we did.
Okay.
I believe at that time it was, hey, these are the things that I'm working towards building this plan to become, and
Good.
thanks
That's
for your
good.
attention.
Great, okay. Any other questions? Job well done, folks. Both Jared and Suzanne, good job. With that being said, I'd like to have a motion to bring it to the full board for approval.
So moved.
Tony, second. Monty, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay.
And just for fun, you'll see in the, I think the last page of the document, you have it in front of you called the watchdog.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so that is our continuing education program. That goes to all salaried staff now to review. She updates it every quarter. There's a little incentive for completing it and getting 100 on it. So if you guys wanna test your knowledge, see how you do, you can fill it out. Suzanne can grade it for you.
Test our CASO knowledge.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's something that's part of what we're doing to help keep everybody engaged, and it's not just the managers or the salary supervisor, it's everybody. So everybody has a risk, from an accounts payable person to an accounts receivable to a supervisor out on the street. These are all things that apply, so.
Keeps it fresh for everyone. This also helps me, another one of the portions of that section 2031, or 2931, it also specifies that we have to actually provide for continuing education for internal control. So aside from getting, 600 people in a room at the same time to talk about the COSO framework, we decided to do this instead. Yeah. So this has actually been kind of growing in popularity. This is issue 12. We do this every quarter. I actually had someone ask me where it was this time because it was a day late. So that's pretty encouraging. And then obviously we kind of touched on it already, the strategic plan, we do meet on that quarterly. That is something that goes out with the comprehensive annual report in April. We update it every year. We are actually going to be making some adjustments to it. And we'll add in the progress that's been made on the different goals over the past year. That plan also helps support the annual performance measures report that you'll get in May. And that will go over the performance measures across properties for the year. Any questions?
Great job. Commissioner.
So, yeah.
Nice guy, you.
That will take a few minutes and then we'll get into the,
My t-shirt, you survived Monty.
Alright.
Yeah, we have.
Alright, we're going live again.
Okay, folks, we're gonna go live. I know a couple people have some time constraints today, so we're gonna stay focused here. Audit and Finance Committee. Let's take a look at, our financial reports ending January 31st. Linda?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, you can keep going, Linda, that's all.
After 10 months, ending January 31st, we have an $8.3 million gain, another improvement over last month. Expenses right now, revenues right now are trending 10% over budget and 46% over prior year. We did have a slight change in the revenues this month that was mainly due to the Lamar contract. We are over the minimum guarantee, so there was additional revenues accrued. But still, we are trending 32% under prior year, or pre-pandemic revenues. Our non-operating revenues. Non-operating revenues are trending about 2% over budget. That's mainly due to our MRT. We had another record month this month in January for MRT. We broke as of January 31st, we broke our record for mortgage recording taxes from prior years. So this is another record year for us. And we still have 2 months to go. Expenses right now are trending about 9% under budget and just about the same as prior year. We are still trending, this month we are trending about 1% over pre-pandemic. So our expense lines are catching up to the levels pre-pandemic. The expense lines, for the most part, same trends as prior months. You know, the only 2 items where we are trending over budget is still in workers' comp and in the purchase transportation. So, are there any questions on financial statements?
Those are good numbers, I didn't wanna ask questions. Very good numbers.
Also in your report is the other statements, the mortgage reporting tax statement, the reserves, the established reserve accounts that we have for, insurance and health claims, cash flow statement, procurement summary, risk management, and grant summary. If you have any questions on them, I can answer that as well.
Any questions?
I have the financial statements.
Any questions for Linda? Okay. Then we're gonna move for a motion to accept those financial statements. Bob, second, Neil, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Next up then is, Jackie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm here just to discuss the Utica pension plan benefit that we have in place. A little bit of history. Back in 2017, the board of members approved an indexing mechanism for that pension plan on an annual benefit to increase it based upon the CPIU that's in place. When they approved it, they also put a caveat in there where there was to be no less than a 1% increase and no more than a 3% increase. So this year, looking at the CPIW as of January 1, 2022, we were looking at a 5.26% increase in the CPIW. Therefore, based on the caveat that we have in place, we would ask for a 3% increase to the pension benefit. The benefit is currently at $68.67 per year of service. If approved, the 3% increase would then go to $70.73 per year of service. And we would just need a motion from the board.
Can you explain that just a little bit more?
Sure.
On, how we review this annually, et cetera, just a little bit, just so everybody's comfortable with this.
Yeah, sure. So every year, our pension plan, is increased. Typically, it's done through negotiation process. Instead of doing a negotiation process for a 3-year contract or a 4-year contract, what we did was a little bit different in Utica. So our Utica pension plan is based upon, your CPI increase every year. So it's a yearly increase. It's based on a, January to December, the CPI, from the prior year to this year, which obviously is 5.26 because we know the CPI has increased immensely
W.
over the past year.
CPIW.
CPIW, sorry. So based upon that, instead of having to negotiate every year, we have this in place where, again, if the CPIW is less than 1%, then we would at least give them a 1% increase in their pension plan for the year. If it's more than, 3%, then we would at least provide them a 3% increase for their pension year.
It should also be noted too that the Utica pension plan is very well funded. It's over
Yes.
100% funded right now.
Yeah,
So this is not gonna affect or cause any additional contributions. Even with a 3% increase, it's still gonna remain over 100% funded.
because they actually contribute into their pension plan in Utica. And the other thing is just so to be clear, this is anybody retiring this year would gain this benefit. It's not for anybody who has
Already
retired previously.
Right.
So it's only for retirees going forward.
Any other questions?
Yeah, it's actuarially sound.
Very.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah, this is,
like he said, we're over 100%. We're like, I don't know,
Fully
110, 120, I
Yeah.
think now.
Flush.
Why
Yeah.
is that? Because, and Nick will know this, in 2005, our involvement with the authority at the time was they were the second lowest paid bus operators in America. We've exponentially raised their rates to be realistic, to raise their rates and their wages. So because they pay on a percentage of what they make, hence all this money's going in. So one of the things that we're negotiating is probably putting a little less in because it'll still manage, a very good policy for that.
Why is Utica different than the other?
Utica joined the authority.
Yeah.
It was a separate entity.
Separate
So
entities.
in
kept
05,
their
05,
pension plan.
we joined. I was a board member for the Transit Authority. We were always separate. And one of the goals, my personal goal, was to give the operators a livable wage. And I have to say one thing, thank God for this team out here. They got a livable wage now. It was horrible before. But that's the separation because they were always separate. Just like their health insurance is separate.
Correct.
And the staff out there was in the New York State pension plan, so, there's a lot of things that just.
They were.
They were,
Yeah.
and they still are,
They still are, yeah.
Employee retirement.
majority of them,
and the pension plan here is non-contributory for the
Yeah.
employees. It was established decades ago.
decades ago.
Now, no new employees are entered into it, they're entered into the defined, contribution plan. Because the DB plan has been frozen. But the employees don't contribute to it, where in Utica they do.
That was a local authority, for the board members here. The board members got paid. That was another thing.
And that was me.
Can we vote on
I
it?
was $89 in 2005.
Oh my God. Are we all comfortable with this out here? Okay, so we got a motion to increase it by 3% contribution, for the Utica plan. Need motion. Robert, second. Monty, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, good job, Jackie.
Thank you.
Okay, resolutions. Caitlin,
Caitlin's not here today.
I didn't see her here, but I was gonna say it anyway, just that I figured she'd fall in from the sky or something.
Ms. King will be presenting.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
you got it, buddy.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
This resolution is for a third-party administrator for the prescription services years 2022 to 2025. This contract will be paid for using operating funds. The request for a proposal was publicly let.
Which color? Pink, okay.
No problem. This request for proposal was publicly let on August 12th. 7 proposal packages were sent out. 10 additional proposal packages were requested. On September 15th, 5 proposals were received, and it was determined in-house by the evaluation committee that ProAct offered the most advantageous proposal for the authority. Therefore, it is our recommendation that the board award for a 3-year contract period the contract for a third-party administrator for prescription services to ProAct.
Questions regarding TPA?
What are prescription services?
What's that?
What are prescription services?
So there,
I need to.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Jackie?
You're not gonna get to
Well, I
talk
don't wanna,
later.
you know.
Go ahead.
You're not gonna get to talk later.
This
so
is
go
your
ahead
baby,
now.
Jackie, go ahead.
So that is our pharmacy benefits manager.
Okay.
So they basically, handle all of our prescriptions
For all of,
for all of our third-party, health insurance. So they do our regular prescriptions at the pharmacy, and they do all of our mail order prescriptions too.
Okay, any other questions for Chris? Jake, you first. Motion to move, ProAct for a 3-year, 3-year contract as our TPA. Neil, second? Tony, any question? All in favor? Aye. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
This next resolution is for a contract for tire lease. This contract is paid for using operating funds. The invitation for bid was publicly let on December 20th, 21. 6 bid packages were sent out. 2 additional bid packages were requested. On January 10th, 2 bids were received, with the lowest responsive and responsible bidder being Bridgestone America's Tire Operations. There's currently a full waiver for MWBE participation pending with New York State Empire Development. Therefore, it is our recommendation that the board award for a full 5-year contract period the contract for tire lease to Bridgestone America's Tire Operations.
Questions regarding the tires?
Yeah, so you're leasing, what's included? Do you retread
Yeah.
everything?
Yeah, they retread.
Perfect, that's my only question.
Yeah, no, we don't retread here, we
I
have them do it.
was assuming you wouldn't, but you don't know.
Yeah, they take the old ones, they pick them up, they bring it back, they retread.
Which property at one time years ago did retread? Was it Q?
Oswego did it one
Oswego.
point.
That's
Yeah.
a tough job.
Yeah,
It is.
Henry did it a little bit, but.
cheaper to retread than buy new.
Depending.
The retreads are snow tires, so it is cheaper and they actually last a lot longer.
Yeah,
And they only go on the rears. Right.
Brand new tires always
have to go on the front.
we run a snow tire all year.
Okay.
We don't switch spring and summer or winter tires, we run winters all year.
You're always prepared.
Sure. Syracuse.
Makes sense.
So, motion to award contract to Bridgestone, for a 5-year, commitment. Neil, Robert second, any questions, all in favor? Okay, resolution, 3D, Chris is gonna discuss, the interactive voice recognition system upgrade.
Yes, this last resolution is for the interactive voice recognition system upgrade. The payment for these fees will be made from operating funds. The cost of the system upgrade is $97,702. Clever Device Software currently supports the authority's core functions. The use of an IVR system allows our customer service call agents to handle more complex requests. The in-house IVR software is proprietary to Clever Devices, making this a sole source procurement. Therefore, is not applicable to MWBE requirements. I'll take this time to turn the floor over to Mike to talk a little bit more about what the IVR software is.
So in general, for our fixed routes, people call in and ask questions about when's my next bus coming in, and what trip should I be taking from, what bus stop, and then going to, so on and so forth. You can actually call them in the system and do it automatically through it itself. You don't talk to a person from that perspective. What that does is it frees up our customer service representative. You don't need as many of them, and they can answer the more complex question like, did I miss my bus, or is the bus late, kind of thing. They can do that. So it frees up that perspective of it. Automates the process.
Any questions?
Is there an option to get to a real person?
Yes.
Cause I hate these things.
Tony ain't gonna move
I
this
might have
motion.
to put this one down.
Objection. That's why you let Ryan.
Tony, I agree with you.
You don't need an IVR to get.
All right. But
Therefore,
we went to where we had to go in society right now. So, who knows? The phone number's gonna be picked up in India. All right, any other questions? All right, so I need a motion on this, resolution 3D.
Absolutely not.
Monty,
I won't object, but I'm not starting it.
who's feeling it? Joe? Joe's feeling it, all right. Any questions? All right, all in favor? Aye, one silent aye. Okay, for the record. All right, thank you.
thank you.
Chris, good job, by the way.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
All right, Linda.
None of those.
That concludes our report.
Okay, the one thing I just wanna, mark down, cause Linda gives us a pre-gamer for the next few months. The final operating budget and financial plan for 22-23 and is coming within a couple months, and also our capital budget, which is separate from the operating budget and their financial plan, so we got a couple, fun things to look forward to. And, and as I look at this meeting today with so far, internal controls, and somebody mentioned the actuary and budgets. Where can you go for this kind of fun? You can't go anywhere. Okay, that's it. Well, let's take a few minutes. Okay. Hey folks, welcome to our board meeting today. We're gonna start out with pledge of allegiance. I'm gonna have Robert lead us in the pledge today.
Sorry.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands
One nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just I wanna take one moment, just one moment with everything going on overseas right now, just take a moment to make sure, these people stay out of harm's way as much as possible. Thank you. Okay, we have a quorum. Our next meeting date is March 25th. We'll have an audit and finance committee meeting at 9 o'clock. Need a motion to approve the regular minutes of January 28th. Motion. Okay, Tony, second. Joe, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we're gonna go with Mr. Schultz with the CEO's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As noted in my report, we are still drawing down our CRISA funds. We've drawn down 10.3 million out of 16.7. It's available, and then we still have our ARP funds that have not been expended yet. As of the writing of this report on the 20th, I should say 2/20, sorry about that. 2 employees were out for COVID issues. So that, we really followed the same bell curve that everybody else did. We spiked around the holidays and we came back down, and everything's trending pretty well right now. Salary study, so Chris Tuff, Jackie, and I met over the past months with all the departments and salary employees and all the properties to review the salary study. It was done by Siegel last year. Each employee was provided with a personalized letter outlining how the study will impact them. It's important to note that no employee was affected negatively. Meetings went well. A couple had some individual questions afterwards, and we addressed those. Throughout the month, we've had meetings on various projects, including BRT on demand service, bike and scooter share, the TPA for prescription drugs that you approved earlier, traffic signal prioritization to go along with the BRT, redesigning the operator's room, and the RPM program. Public transit funding, as we get closer to the state fiscal budget deadline, myself and our NIPTA counterparts, or my NIPTA counterparts, and that discuss our message to our state delegation. We've had numerous Zoom meetings with multiple senators and assembly members to discuss some STOA parity. So what we're really looking for is, the 13% that we got was incredible, and it's going to go a long way to help us. But the downstate non-MTA properties received 36%, and we got 13%. And that's been our message for years, is we're always looking for the same formula to be applied through all of the non-MTA properties. It's being pretty well received, but again, it'll depend on how the final budget shakes out on where that 13% stands. Does it increase? Does it stay the same?
I want to just make one thing clear, though. We are appreciative for the 13%, so that's still a nice increase. But I think Brian hit it right. We've been advocating this for years. Sometimes there's a division between downstate and upstate on the funding percentages, and I think the upstate delegation, you're talking Albany through Buffalo, they stay strong to try to equality with downstate. We are one state, I thought.
Yeah, and we're in a fortunate position right now that we have a governor that's from upstate. The Senate Transportation Chairman is from upstate. The Assembly Transportation Chairman is from upstate. So we're in a stronger bargaining position, I think, than we have been in the past. So in addition to the NIPTA meetings, Chris and I have been meeting with our local delegation to drive home the same message and then to add on some of the central needs, especially on the capital side, get some of the state dedicated funding to help with, various projects that we're trying to implement, including BRT. So again, we'll have to wait and see how that shakes out. BRT remains a hot topic, and discussing this with our local delegation, as I mentioned. We met virtually with the city on the 31st. We got another meeting coming up next week, 2 weeks, next week.
Great question.
Yeah, I'll figure that out. So again, it's just refreshing to have the city being involved in this and interested in it, so. Fair change, Steve Cagle is gonna touch more on this, under his report. We did our virtual, public hearings, they went very well. I'll do it now, I'll give some kudos to all the reports that were emailed out to you. It's just a Herculean task to put those together. They're required, and she just did a phenomenal job with them. So great job, Paul. And then the bike and scooter share, Chris and I have been making the rounds, visiting with various towns and villages. We met with Thomas Lina so far, Camillus, OCC. We've got meetings coming up with Manlius. We mentioned we started the conversation with Syracuse University about placing bike and scooter corrals in their areas. Being very, very well received. They're very interested. So I think that'll be one of our projects that we'll implement in the late spring, early summer this year.
Just non-better county.
Yeah, we can do it, yes, we'll ultimately expand it out. The RFP is gonna be written that we wanna expand out to all the counties. We're gonna start with Onondaga. And that's all I have unless there's questions.
Okay, so, you wanna call on Steve first?
Steve, why don't you go?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. I started a little this morning talking about ridership in the month of January. The ridership figures are very impacted. January was a tough month with COVID. A lot of people were not working. So ridership was down a little bit from where it was last year in our urban services. But our educational services for Syracuse University and Syracuse University more than made up for where we were last year. So we were down about 50% as we have been. Looking at numbers in February, we're starting to bounce back a little bit as people return to work, COVID related. So we're trending back up this month, and hopefully by when we see the final numbers, it'll look a little better for next month. From a service related matter, we are returning service as of March 7th. We're returning more service to our communities, specifically in Syracuse, where we had to cut because of manpower shortages. James Street, Liverpool, Court Street, Bayville, Manlius, Solvay, Mattydale, North Syracuse, Henry Clay bus lines, all have seen an increase in frequency. That's good. That's really good news. These are things that were based on customer feedback. Essentially, people would call in and say, "I need an extra trip here, an extra trip there." Ed Mueller and our planning department put together a series of trips that we believe will assist individuals getting to and from work locations. So we're very happy about returning this level of service, making some minor adjustments in Utica and in Rome, and in our intercity services that connect Syracuse with Oswego and Auburn. We're changing the timing of them, tweaking them a little bit to better meet connections. So everyone who uses our service can really get to where they need to be more efficiently. And as Brian had touched on, we went through a series of public hearings, 8 of them, 2 in each county, to discuss the fare parity, offering the same fare for everybody in all of our city services and reducing our fares for our commuter runs. It's $1 fare for adults, 50 cents for individuals who qualify for half fare. Children's under 6 still ride for free. It's the elimination of our transfer program. So everybody pays $1 every time they get on the bus. The public meetings went very well. Overwhelmingly, received very well overwhelmingly. Some questions here and there about the transfer situation. Nothing that, really was a downside. Everyone's very happy to see that, the resources we have are being put back into our customers. We hope that this will, inspire, our current riders to ride more. We hope it will entice non-riders to try our system. Also lays the foundation for us to, begin mobile ticketing in the not too distant future. We're testing that right now. So this is a good foundation for us going forward. We really need people to get back on the bus and use public transportation. It's been a tough couple of years during the pandemic with people telling, all individuals to stay off our buses, quite frankly. And we need to reverse that message, so.
And I'll also turn the fare box into a ticket vending machine.
Yep.
You can buy passes right there at the fare box.
So as soon, as Brian said, instead of having to go to a TVM or a Tops or any of our outlets to buy your passes, you walk out to the bus stop that you normally use, you hop on the bus, you say, I'd like to buy a 10-ride pass, put your money in the fare box and put your 10-ride pass right out of the fare box. So that will be, we believe that will be a convenience that will again help more people use our system. I'm going to pass out a resolution. This is the resolution the board does need to take official action on the proposed fare parity process that we've put together.
Ready? Ready, bro.
This just basically, it outlines the reasons for us moving to the fair parity. It's part of our mission, trying to increase the effectiveness of our services. This meant all equity analysis, now all the equity analysis that we needed to provide, and it's fair parity for all individuals with all of our users in our system.
Yeah, any other questions here?
I have a quick one. So it's great that you'll be able to just get, all these essentially standardized at the fare box, which makes it really easy. How is that information pushed out to the riders? Because I know if I'm, people are behind me, I'm getting on the bus, I don't really want to talk to the operator and say, well, hang on, what can I do here? So I'm just wondering where can we send people if we do get questions?
Send them to our customer service department.
Okay.
This will be on social media, we'll have advertisements out. It's gonna be pushed out at the hubs, we'll have on our monitors, all this information will be out. Perfect. Can't do anything until the board takes official action, but as soon as that occurs, we're ready to fly.
That's great.
Time frame of implementation.
Our implementation will be a week from Monday, be March 7th.
No, not this, the mobile ticketing.
Oh, mobile ticketing is probably, 6 to 8 weeks out.
Yeah, our goal right now is like April 4th. We're having some software issues.
Oh, spring.
We're not, they are.
Yeah, it's a spring, it's a spring.
It's a spring, it's a spring.
Yeah, let's make that clear, we're not.
Yes. Any other questions?
This was good work by you folks, very good work, very, we like when the people have a chance to speak, in a pro or, negative way, whatever. And I think that it was done very thorough. And these aren't easy, changing these things are not easy. And, do you have 51% support, which I know you do, at least 51%. 51 means 49, right? So,
Except in golf.
that's true. Any other questions for Steve on this? This was, I like how you handled the whole thing.
Again, I'd like to thank, everybody involved, Paula, Ed Mueller, Lynette Figuano, of the entire planning department. Marketing is really gearing up right now for a big push. You're gonna see signs on the side of our buses, like people know it's only a buck. So there's gonna be a big push for it from the marketing standpoint, so.
And I know TMT was happy to have Central shout the good news.
Just keep it comfortable. Okay, all, good job. Okay, a motion please to move forward. Neil, second. Monty, any questions? All in favor? Aye. Okay, good job, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian.
Chris?
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the board. Just want to give you guys a quick update on where we are as we see in the political world, the push for lowering our emissions of greenhouse gases. We know there's actually a bill that's gone to the governor's desk right now about all personal vehicles being purchased post 2035 have to be electric. We'll see if she signs that sometime in the near future, but there's always been a push on the buses going electric. You know, the governor, Cuomo, issued a guidance in 2019 as far as 5 authorities across the state going to an electric zero emissions vehicle. We are exempted from that due to our investment in CNG, so we're steps ahead of anybody running clean diesel or diesel buses, but that didn't take us out of the running from at least looking and researching the viable options. So as we've talked about and we've seen, you know, battery electric buses is a big push. You know, plugging them in, charging them. The energy on the bus is the energy you have for the day. Based on the weather that we have in upstate New York and the Northeast, those are difficult for us to run in some of the services that we provide. As we've talked before, special services as far as the state fair, SU Dome events, concerts, Monster Jam, basketball games, they become a concern of ours to be able to run because these buses run all day long. So what we're pursuing and looking in is the hydrogen. So a hydrogen fuel cell bus still is an electric bus, but instead of plugging it in and charging it, the hydrogen is fueled on the bus, and then as the bus drives around, it creates its own electricity to then charge the battery pack on the bus to lower. So the emissions on that is actually water. So the water is actually streams out of the back of the bus, and then there's no emissions on. It also, the residual heat from the chemical reaction of creating the electricity will also heat the bus. So it takes a little bit of pressure off the HVAC system. So it gives us an opportunity to look at a different alternative to reaching zero emissions, still going with electric. But we also, just to give you guys that update, you know, as we've talked about with the electrical supply here at Syracuse, if we were to go battery electric based on the existing current, we can only charge 6 buses a day, or at a time. So of a 140 bus fleet just alone in Syracuse, we have significant problems with that, and also require us to put significant infrastructure in. So we're looking at an alternative with a battery electric bus. It's probably a 1.5 to 2 bus replacement, and they're trending right now somewhere between 900,000 to 1.1 million for an battery electric bus. Where a hydrogen right now, it's still newer technology. Fully equipped is probably right around 1.4 million, but we're hoping as technology evolves with anything, price will continue to drop. And it'll, yeah, it is. You know, right now our current CNGs are trending about 600,000 fully loaded.
We have 540.
540. So
Say
it's
the number again, the electric.
battery electric bus is trending right between 900,000 to 1.1 million. And fully loaded, where the fuel cell hydrogen bus is about 1.4 fully loaded. And we're at 540,000 for a CNG bus, currently is our purchase price in the contract.
Is the length of service still the same?
Yep, there's still a 12-year useful life. There is some right now based on technology that would require what they call a half-life kind of refresh, which could be either a battery replacement or in the hydrogen. Could be certain components as far as the chemical reaction to create the electricity would need to be swapped out, just in about a half-life overhaul. But with the hydrogen, it'll allow us to do more of a one-for-one replacement. So hopefully it doesn't require us to expand the facility much further unless we get in, you know, with BRT and all that is a different story. But as far as existing fleet, hydrogen would be something we're looking into pursuing. So we've had several battery electric buses here on property from different vendors. Currently in the United States, there's 2 vendors that operate and produce a hydrogen bus. It's Eldorado and New Flyer. So, you know, we're looking at those options. Based on a time frame for our current fleet for the 12-year useful life, we're probably later in closer to 2029 to really see a changeover to pursue this or look at this option.
And hopefully by then, you know, the technology will have advanced, and the price will probably come down a little bit.
I was thinking, you know, flat screen TVs were expensive one time. So.
Yeah. Say that again.
Were they in Florida?
Eldorado
there?
I don't know where
Eldorado's, no,
No, I just put,
I'm trying to
I
remember.
remember they had the buses there, I was wondering.
Oh, they had a demo bus. down
Yeah.
there. Yeah, they have, and what they do is, the Eldorado currently has a program with Dayton, Ohio called SARTA, which is their transportation authority, that has a borrow bus program, so they have a bus that goes on tour.
Okay.
So that bus was down there, we weren't lucky enough to get that bus here, it came through New York City, New Jersey Transit, but we couldn't get it in Syracuse. But we're hoping to have, those buses recircle back through, that we can actually see one, drive it, test it on our existing service here. With the battery electric buses, we've had our mechanics go out and look at them and physically drive them around town with most of us on the bus. From anybody from accounting, mechanics, procurement, and management staff to be able to see how they actually ride.
I sent you all an email this morning too that had some attachments in it. That has a lot of good information about hydrogen buses and how they work, and cheat sheet, and how Central would implement it.
The 12-year shelf life for us is critical because of the climate. Erosion's our biggest enemy. So if you're in Florida and you spend 1.4 million, you might not have to do that every 15 or 16 years. Here, 12 years is it. The bus cannot survive that long, even if the technology does. That's the downside.
And side question, just based on the property and where you're at, and as you go into the future, you're gonna get more buses. Are you looking at new properties? Cause a lot of times I've heard in meetings about, we're kinda at capacity right now and adding more buses, or if we wanted to do this, it's kinda like not the space is there, so.
And I think a lot of that'll depend on, what technology we go with. So if we go with hydrogen, we are gonna need, especially going with BRT, that's gonna add, 12 to 16 buses to our fleet. And we're gonna need someplace to put them. So we are looking into, we have the J-Lot over here.
Yeah.
So we're looking into maybe building an auxiliary facility there, that would be used to house, buildings and grounds equipment, some of the excess fleet, and things of that nature. Now, if we have to go electric, now you're talking, you definitely need another facility, because the charging stations alone would diminish the amount of, vehicles that be on the property.
With the changing, landscape of the buses themselves, you're gonna have to retrain your mechanics and things.
Yeah, it'll be a retraining of mechanics, it's actually even a retraining of the operators. Because while driving these buses, if you've never driven an electric car, there's also a regeneration from the friction when the bus slows down. So there's a training opportunity to continue to charge the batteries with regeneration on the braking, through the driving process, not slamming on the gas to go 0 to 60 right away. Will also help maintain the battery life.
It's like driving a golf cart. If you ever do an electric golf cart, it's the same idea. You can immediately, you're at full speed, but you gotta ease into it and you gotta ease off of it. It's the same, so you have to, it's actually a learning moment for the operator to learn how to drive that bus.
And then for the mechanics, because you're eliminating the combustion engine.
Right.
So they're basically gonna need to be, like computer trained.
Electricians.
Yeah, you're driving a computer.
Find an electrician.
With the push coming from the state and the Fed to go green, lower emissions, battery, whatever it is, do we know if they're gonna help pick up some of the tab for some of these things? Cause the cost is still a big factor, and I don't know if there'll be true parity by the time that.
There is some funding in the budget, there's $100 million 5-year allocation for our electrification in that process, so $20 million a year. Based on the numbers I just gave you, that's not gonna go very far.
That be for you, or is that for all?
Yeah, it's for all of us.
That's
for
That's-
everybody.
We're splitting that amongst the states, so.
Half a bus.
What's the percentage breakdown from a federal, state, local right now when we buy a bus?
All federal.
All federal,
It
right?
depends how you buy that.
I mean, right now, the 18 buses that are coming in, or going online in March, I mean, it's about 50% of those 18 buses are 100% state funded, and then the remainder are split 80-10-10, federal, state, local.
And that's been part of our message to the, state delegation, isn't it, that has been doing our, advocacy days. Is that, this is great, you can come up with these new initiatives, but now you gotta help us pay for it.
So that local 10%, how does that get diminished
Right.
down to through?
It goes from
match, we need to
50,000
match
to 40,000,
the
that's the problem.
Yeah.
Per vehicle.
Any other questions?
The other component, on the CNG buses, we get a tax credit, which for us is a check. I mean, is that gonna happen with whatever we choose, electric or hydrogen?
I don't know if it's been fully disclosed yet, have Have you heard anything on that one, or anything?
Well, no, that credit's just for the use of the CNG. So
Yeah, because it's an alternative,
I don't, NYSERDA would be involved or
Yeah,
anything.
so I don't
it's an
think they got that.
alternative fuel credit, and electric isn't a fuel. So that's, electric buses aren't included in that.
So that would have to be made up
Yeah.
somehow.
Well, that or they'd have to amend the legislation to
Yeah.
include clean.
Barry Carr said that if you get the hydrogen fuel, like truck to you, that's considered an alternative fuel, so it will,
Yeah.
that fuel tax credit will apply.
So that would be included.
Hydrogen, yeah. Any other questions?
Thanks, Chris. Jackie?
There's
I mean,
anything left
again-
if we haven't covered it already.
Huh?
I said, as long as we didn't cover it already.
No.
Nobody got yelled at yet.
So, under the FTA program, we have to submit an EEO program every 4 years. EEO meaning Equal Employment Opportunity Program. And ours expires this April, the end of April, April 30th, of this year. So at this point, we're in the process of updating our EEO program, in order to submit it to the FTA by the end of April. Any questions on that? Once it's done, what I can do is just bring it up here. It's a pretty thick, document, and
We're
you
working
guys
with our
can look
labor
at it.
attorney
Yeah,
to develop this, or update it.
update. Okay, the only other thing I have is just, an update on our recruiting. Recruiting has been going well. We've seen, a turn for the better. Our driver's class is gonna graduate in March, so, Joe will go more in depth into that.
Still at 20?
19. We have like 12 going. I don't know if I'm stealing his thunder, but we have.
At this point, let's keep the meeting going.
We have 12 that have committed to full-time, and the, huh? Why we don't have one? All right,
Last night.
okay. I guess while I was off
sent
this
an
week,
email out
we
earlier
have
this morning.
one that's not now. So, and that's all I have for the board.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
Jeff?
Thank you, Brian. Morning, Mr. Chairman. Morning, everybody. I wanted to talk to you about the difficulty finding mechanics here. As we struggle, not only we struggle, other agencies struggle. I'm sure you're struggling, yes. So even dealerships struggle. We've actually gathered several mechanics from dealerships when they come here. 55% of our mechanics are from other dealerships or have a skill already. 45 were trained here. And we have a program, which is the trainee program, which we take our servicer cleaners and we allow them, if they pass some tests, they can come in and become trainees. They take it 6 months long, they work alongside mechanics, and they, if they pass the test at the end, they now become a helper. So then they get 2 years to go alongside mechanics, and then they can become a mechanic. They take a test in 2 years, and they pass that test, they become a mechanic.
You're paying them for those.
That's right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So 45% of our staff currently has gone through that program. So most of the time, we're getting people from inside to do this. For the last 2 years, we have not had any training program because of the fact that we haven't had much service or cleaners who haven't been here. Since Jackie has gotten us people, we're actually gonna start this program back up again, which is really nice. So we're gonna get a couple of our employees that have been sitting around waiting to go into this program to bring them in and become mechanics. So just wanna let you know that. Bus build's happening. March 11th is when it's gonna happen. We're gonna have 18 40-foot CNGs, 8 40-foot diesels that are gonna be here. Both of these are gonna be here. 4 35-foot diesels are gonna be at Utica. And then we got 5 40-foot high backs, gonna replace some of the MCIs. They're gonna have a nicer seat, more comfortable seat for a longer ride. So we got a total of 35 buses arriving late March through May. And as I mentioned before, our staff goes out there. Who better get to inspect these buses than our staff? Our 2020 buses and 2021 buses, we had Gillig inspect them. We had a lot of major issues because we didn't have one of our people there to inspect it. So it's really essential. We've got 5 of them going out there, and they inspect everything. Not all 5 at once. They're going to be 2 at a time. And the bus builds are going to start 3/11 and end on 5/12. So we'll have buses trickling in from now till May.
That's all I have from my board.
Gillick's still on the west coast, right?
Yes, we're right there in California in the Bay Area.
Sounds like a nice trip.
Yes.
You guys taking board members?
Part of that pay, it's not that we can pick tires.
Right.
The shift starts at 5 a.m.
I have time, so
I'll just stay up all night.
If I would say just don't go to bed.
Good, no, it's great, good report.
Are there age limits for the mechanics?
That's my,
What is it, 18? You gotta be at least 18?
18.
Yeah, 21's preferred because then you can get your A license. Yeah, CDLA.
It's a nice career for a young person.
so do
Yeah.
they just apply through,
So-
you go online and look and say, hey, I wanna apply for, then,
Yeah, jobs are posted right on our website.
okay,
And you
and they have to have skill level.
Well, and that's, I guess that was gonna be my question, are they coming with skills, are they coming, I guess, green out of maybe just a regular high school diploma?
So I know both, that skill level, they've worked with cars, trucks, whatever. However, to me, you're not in a, excuse my bias, an educational setting with your skill level. This is what I picked up for 4 or 5 years. That's one. And the other one are the students who may be graduating either from a BOCES program or OCC, Morrisville, some type of mechanical training that they've had.
We actually will train them here and we actually give them tests. So say for instance, you come to us and you have some skills. We can sit you down and go through a process of tests to see if you can pass something, whether it be at aeroelectric, brakes and things like that. And if you pass it, we can make you a mechanic.
If I don't pass it, do I get a, go try this and come back in 3 months?
They can start out as a cleaner servicer
You go to the training program.
and then
Okay.
enter into like a training program
It's a
from that.
prerequisite to get.
Alright,
Yeah, you wouldn't get turned away if you didn't pass the test.
We've given people many opportunities, different tests, just to see if they have any ability to do that. Any other questions?
Very good. Keep up the
Thanks,
good
Jeff.
work.
Mike?
Good morning.
morning.
I've got about 3 things I wanna kind of go over with you. We run on a generator once a month, kind of test the generator, make sure that it works, so if something happens, we have electricity throughout the building. Well, it caused an issue this past month. This is a drive that's actually used on our servers, for our virtual servers. For those of you on the phone, the drive is literally about 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 an inch in diameter. On our virtual servers that connects to our storage system, those got corrupted. What that means is the 50 servers and desktops that we have on those, we're having connection problems, issues, and so on and so forth throughout the process. Good news is we had 3 of them that were doing it. We were able to take information from one server to another server, find out what the problem was, which took about 2 weeks to figure out if that was the problem, and then replace those as we went through the process. Kind of an interesting process for us to go through. It is up and working now. Nice little learning lesson for my team from that system itself.
You have to replace all 50.
And no, really what it is we have the way a virtual environment is set up. You have servers and you have a storage area. On the server, it's a host server. So the host server hosts 50 systems, if you will, within itself. Each one of those 3 or 4 servers actually has one of these, which conducts the operating system for it. So that would really want to replace 3 of them. So it wasn't too bad, but it was trying to figure out what was going on with it, because it was working, but it would be interruptive. So the PDS would be working 1 minute, the next minute it would be working. Same thing with some of the other systems.
Are there preventative measures that we take that it doesn't happen the same?
Yes, we have, there's 2 things that we're looking at and doing it. One is to replace these with regular hard drives. The other is they have a 2 connection process through USB connectors, which allow you to have 2 of those. So it's like a mirrored, what we call a mirrored connection. If one fails, the other one takes over. So we won't be going to, but they'll let us know that one failed, so we can replace that.
That's less expensive than ours.
No, these are a lot less expensive than our drive, actually. But I mean, and this is 32 megabytes. It's the same drive you might have put in a camera and hold pictures and so on and so forth. So it's an interesting technology that we're dealing with these days from that perspective. Maintenance connection. We have some of our people right now doing work orders in parallel. Some are from the AS400 while also doing the maintenance connection itself too. We're looking to get that up and running for everybody over the next couple of weeks. David Smith from Accruent is actually coming here next week to kind of firm up any of the issues that we are having, any questions we have, do some training with some folks. So we're really looking to have that kind of jumpstart this whole process with more. Thanks to Linda and her team, they're now we have all the parts in the system itself, so we'll be able to really truly run parallel in the outlying areas as well too. So that's coming along very well. And finally, cybersecurity. You may have heard in the news lately that there've been some threats that have been going around, and they're real. They're very, very real. The two biggest ones that are hitting us right now are Cyclops, Blink, and let me say it right. Muddy Waters. And what it is there's two things that they do. They'll come into a system and they'll not attack the operating system, but the firmware that's behind the operating system itself. So the operating system can still do what it does, but now this is saying, okay, for this operating system to work, it's going to access the camera on this system. That's the firmware that says that camera is available. Their systems or their attack is going to say, not only do we want to say that camera is available, but we want to send that camera information out to a cloud someplace. So it's an espionage type of approach. The other thing it can do is it can encrypt the information that's in here. It can copy information that's in here. Pretty serious stuff that's actually going on. I heard from the New York State SIC program, which is the New York State Troopers. I heard from FBI. I heard from Homeland Security. But these things are very real, and they're really real threats. What we need to do to make certain that we protect ourselves from this is patch. So even in your home systems, if you have an operating system, make certain that it's patched correctly from a legitimate site. So if it's Microsoft, go to the Microsoft. If it's Apple, go to Apple to do the patching. The other is watch out for any emails. If an email comes in and it looks slightly wrong, don't click on anything, don't click on any attachments, just, you've all heard this before. Interesting thing that happened after I got two of these announcements this week and I sent them out yesterday. Literally last night, right after I sent that, Jeannie Baron-Kovich sent me a copy of an email that she had gotten that was a spoofed email from Genfair actually, from Sarah, but it was dated. It was from last year and there's other different things in it that weren't quite right. Our system actually caught it. If she had clicked on the link, our system would have said, nope, you can't go there. The web defense would have said, no, this is a bad program. I took that email and I shipped it over to Microsoft and I said, hey, look, can you analyze this header for me? And they said, no, we don't even want to analyze it because we know it's bad. So we sent it to, so they're out there, they're really out there and attacking. I sent it over to our WebSense group itself to have them fully analyze the email to see where it's actually coming from and what are some of the other things that we need to be looking for. Once they get it, they also put that in their system and our systems to block it. So it's a real kind of complicated process, but it's a really neat process to kind of keep things at bay. It's out there. Cybersecurity is a real problem these days, and it will be.
Absolutely. I agree.
Particularly when you talk about the stuff going on over there in the world.
Good. A lot of heavy weight on your shoulders right now.
Yeah, guys like Carlos to help me out with it, so it's good. Any questions?
Oh, great job.
Thanks, Mike. Joe, why don't we do yours next, then we'll do it again.
Okay, sure. You've heard from Steve, you've heard from Jackie regarding service changes, some manpower changes. What does that mean to operations, and really more importantly, what does it mean to our customer? Adding those 11 operators does increase our, on a full-time status, does help us. We were able to add 60 hours of service on a daily basis, which is fairly significant. One of the options that's helping, that's allowing Steve and his group is we can now focus on things that we need to focus on. So as you're putting things back, by default, this has allowed us to now focus on real areas of concern and not just put something back that, hey, we ran it since 1970, we're still gonna run it. They're able to focus and use these hours where they're needed, which is very important for our customer. Are we at full status yet? No, not even close. We're still about 30 operators short on the full-time side. There class coming in April. Definitely a class in September, June probably not. And we just continue to hire, so. These are good opportunity jobs, so when you're out there and you know, in other meetings and things, I mean, you guys are involved in a lot of different things. You know, these are good jobs. They pay well, good benefits, you know, you take care of your family, put your kids through school. I mean, that's the kind of career that we offer here. We're starting to break that mold a little bit. We're starting to get some better candidates, and we're starting to see some people that are realizing that, you know, you can make 55, 60 grand here, pretty easily. And again, in Syracuse, that's a pretty good number. So we're still actively searching, and I say we, it's really Jackie's department and Amanda in particular, but everybody is really a resource for us now. As I say, every day is a job interview, so when you're in a store and I meet somebody that's offering great customer service, I think, you know, you work part-time, full-time, give me my card. Listen, we're looking for people, you know, so at this point, you're stealing from everybody else, and that's the downside. You know, our gain may be somebody's loss, and sometimes it's our loss because someone goes somewhere else, so. Hopefully that's gonna start calming down as the marketplace and business starts picking back up, so.
It's full-time Monday through Friday, leaves?
No.
No, not necessarily. Not as an operator, and really not even in maintenance.
Full-time, 5 days a week?
5 days a week,
5 days a week.
minimum 40 hours a week. So
Would you think about going 4 days a week and increasing the time? Because they're here.
Yeah, we're looking at a
For
lot of
driving?
different things, on the operator side, including like a system redesign that might allow us to, shorten the, headways, by adding some additional service, and that would allow us to then shorten the runs. So maybe offering 410s rather than 5-day work again, so we're looking at all that.
Yeah. The downside to this business is we're open 20 hours a day. So there is no shift work.
Right.
We have a lot of overlap. You've got an AM peak, a PM peak, and right now you have a peak and a valley and a peak. Raising that middle, which Steve's talked about in the past, is getting better service during the weekday. Why? Because employment has shifted to 10, 11 start times. A lot of retail, a lot of different service jobs. So we're trying to, you know, if we can raise that level up, now I don't need the person at 6 in the morning and I don't need them to stay till 6 at night because I've got an even keel and a place to put these people. Right now, just when it drops off, we go from 120 buses to 70. That's the drop. So what
These drivers are still here though.
well, they're on break. So they work 4 hours in the morning, take a break in the afternoon, and then come back for 4 more hours. So if we can get that to a more consistent 9.5 hour day maybe versus a 12-hour day, there's your incentive to say, hey, I can do that, you know, because it does eat into family time. It does eat. We get it, we understand it, but that's the nature of what we do right now. So once we can raise that up, we've got options.
I
thought about it.
Well, it's the
15
chicken and
minutes.
the egg, I mean, so we need to increase frequency and increase service, but we need more operators to do that.
To do it.
In order to get more operators, we need to offer a better schedule, but we can't offer a better schedule.
We've never
so-
been in a better financial position, honest to God, in my 30 years here. And Linda, for her entire career, she'll tell you that. Now we're fighting the other battle, which is getting people. 2008, we had 225 full-time operators. We have 154 today. That's the difference. So if we can get back there, we've got the financial need or the financial abilities to put this service out, run this BRT, do the things we want to do for this community and all the communities we serve. So it's just, you know, we got to get back to that number.
Thanks, Joe. That concludes, our staff report.
Very good. Great reports. Going right into A and F, everything's been discussed in committee. Linda discussed the financial reports as of January 31st. Puts us in a nice place. Healthy, very healthy financial report. Motion was made to bring it to the full board for approval. I need a motion at this time to adopt it. Robert, second. Tony, all in favor? Okay, also, Jackie updated us on the pension fund increase, a 3% increase for the Utica fund. She went through in detail, the reasoning for that, seemed to make a lot of sense. Motion was made, bring it to the full board approval. At this point, I need a motion to, move this. Monty, second. Tony, any questions? All in favor? Aye. Okay, resolutions, 3B, the TPA prescription services that, Chris came in to discuss. Let me just make sure I have that in front of me here. Award contract to, there we go. Okay, I got my cheat sheets here. Okay, to award, third-party administrative services, to ProAct for a 3-year period, proper bidding, and, the vetting process, was achieved. So at this point, we're looking to, I need a motion to move ProAct forward. Tony, second. Neil, all in favor? Aye. Chris also brought, forward the tire lease. We learned about how we use winter tires all seasons. And, that contract is a 5-year contract with Bridgestone, and they were a successful bidder. Motion was made to, move that forward to the full board. Your motion now. Neil, second. Robert, all in favor? Aye. And also, there was discussion on the interactive voice recognition upgrade. We heard what people's personal feelings and what they think about this. And,
It was singular, Chairman.
motion was
Plural.
made to bring it to the full board for approval. Now at this point, I need a motion.
He's still not doing it.
Joe's got the motion on the table, Robert's got the second motion, and all in favor?
Whatever.
And I'm sure if we vote on it.
Record that.
Then we will on his side, anybody else's.
We also had a governance committee, report today that Susanna, I thought, and company did a great job, really good job. I encourage all of you to read as much as you could on internal controls this weekend. I'll quiz you next month. And a motion was, made to accept that, program manual. At this point, I need a motion, to move this. Tony?
Yes.
Second. Neil? All in favor? Aye. At this point, we do need an executive session and we will come back out. It's a personnel matter, and I need Brian and Chris to stay in the room. So I need a motion to go into executive, session. Okay, Monty, second. Robert, all in favor? Aye. Okay, We're out of executive session. At this point, the board has discussed, the cost of living adjustment for the salaried individuals. The board has believed that the salaried individuals have done a wonderful, a great job stewarding through a lot of unknowns this past year. And we're taking the position right now, I'm asking for a motion for an increase for the salaried folks here of 3.5%, which will commence on April 1st. I have Monty has moved it. We have a second by Tony. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
And for the record, on behalf of the salary staff, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
It means a lot.
Yeah, we appreciate your ongoing commitment.
So thank you. Let's have a safe journey home today.
Sorry to
And,
come down again.
Yeah.
and that concludes our meeting. We'll move for adjournment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.